Welcome to Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston, PhD. Dr. Glenn is a clinical psychologist and former multi-million-dollar consultant to the big food industry and uses his experience to help you defeat your cravings. This show will help you to focus on dramatically reducing cravings and leaving the diet mentality behind, so you can more easily and effortlessly achieve your health, fitness, and body composition goals. Please remember, no doctor-patient relationship is created via this show, and you are responsible for confirming any changes to your diet, health, or psychological routines with an appropriately licensed professional before implementing them. Before we get started, if you haven't downloaded the free smartphone app to access dozens of these recordings all in one place, as well as to avail yourself of a confidential community for support, motivation, and assistance, please visit the podcast link on defeatyourcravings.com as soon as possible. And now, here's your host, Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Hey, this is the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston with defeatyourcravings.com. I'm here with a kind-hearted woman named Alini, who's been working with us for a couple of months and is here to let you benefit from her experience and strength and hope and wisdom, as well as her trials and tribulations and stumbles and falls. Right, Alini?
Yes, that's correct.
Could you just give us a little background about your story? What was your life like with food, and what attracted you to defeat your cravings? What's happened since you started, that kind of thing? And then anything you want me to help you with, I'm happy to.
I was actually thinking like when I think my food obsession started, and I actually do not really remember. I don't have like any childhood trauma that is related to food or anything like that. I was never like really overweight. I was never really self-conscious about my body, but I was always, I want to please people. I forgot the name of that.
People pleaser?
People pleaser, yes. And I was always trying to like please everyone, and I always not self-conscious about my body, but not conscious about my value, like I was always very hard on myself. Since a little kid, what I remember, maybe I should lose some weight or doing something. I have 3 little boys. After my third kid, I decided I want to go back in shape. I love running, so I want to make sure that the strength training so I could also keep up with my running and losing weight. I started looking good, and I was like, I like that. And then I got a help of a fitness coach. It's not very restricted diet, but was not like you can eat whatever you want, more like aware of what I was eating. And then I started like not being able to follow the plan. And that was really hard on me because I am a person that I'm very hard on myself. I'm very perfectionist. I always wanted to do things like right. And I was like, why I'm not being able? There's something wrong with me. Why I'm not able to follow the plan? Because I was not even binging, but just like not being able to keep the word. And that kind of affect me as a person, like I'm not being able to keep up with my word to my coach. So I started Googling, like how to stop binging. I found your first book, I'm not sure exactly, but the previous one, this was like probably about like a year ago. And at the time, there was no coaching available just for the book and the podcast. I really like it. It really resonated with me because I love following rules. So I was like, I think that I can create my own rules and follow it. I can do that. And also like everything was backed up scientifically, it makes sense, was not just do this because I said so. I love the logic behind that. So I started doing it and I got some success. I could feel like my food obsess was like kind of lowering down, but I never were able to really feel like I had the pig caged 100%. So when you guys opened the opportunity to join the coaching group, I jumped in like immediately. I was like, yeah, I need to do this. I was a little concerned because it was exactly when I started my master's degree. So it's been like the busiest time of my life ever. But I also remember like listening from the podcast, if I can do this right now that I'm super busy, then when life gets a little easier, not so busy, I will be able to maintain. So here I am.
If you want to get something done, ask a busy person.
Yes.
What's happened? Has it helped you?
Yes, it did. I'm way more aware of what is happening because I think a lot of my binges was not aware of what was happening. So it was just like binging and then the pig blaming on me, like, oh, that's something wrong with you. So just go ahead and binge again. I'm still working on have a streak of like a long days and not binging. But as I said, I'm also very busy. So a lot of things are happening, like a lot of emotional stress that it's not cooperating. Life is not being very cooperative. But what I find for the program is that I'm so more aware of areas of my life that might be impacting my binging. For example, the impulsiveness, like to do things without pausing and not doing things that are not going to serve my purpose in life, not going to serve my identity because I just do, like when I'm angry, when I'm tired, the self-care, like learn how to take care of myself. No, I'm not going to do this because this is not good for me. Hurting myself because I'm afraid to hurt someone else's feeling. So I would rather like hurt myself or do something that I know it's not good for me and then I'm going to be resented because I don't want to hurt people's feelings.
We call that eating at somebody when you're angry with them and you don't know what to do with it. I'm going to eat at you.
Yeah. And I know I don't need to solve all of this in order to stop binging. And I know that for sure. I love the fact that I'm aware of those things and now I can solve those things because before I kind of knew, of course, I knew what I was doing and I knew it was not good. But now when I do it, it's like a light bulb goes on my head. I'm like, oh, look what you're doing. I'm noticing those patterns and those behaviors that I'm doing. The same thing like eating when I'm angry, as you just said, or like when I'm very uncomfortable, I eat because that's the habit that I was been doing for a while. So I love knowing things. I love learning things and learning about myself and understand that there is nothing wrong with me. I just need to keep working on those things. I love it very much. And also the forgiveness, I think that was the hardest part, like to really learn how to forgive myself. And I remember one day I was crying because I had the binge the night before and I was like crying. And then I just had this feeling of, all right, Aline, either gonna forgive yourself right now or you're gonna keep doing this and keep crying. So you're gonna have to forgive yourself. Like there's no other option. Otherwise, the other option is just keep feeling miserable. So I think those for me are like the key points. The last thing also like finding a community where I feel like I can share those things because as I mentioned at the beginning, I was never like overweight. People who look at me might not think that I have a binging problem or I'm obsessed about food because I exercise a lot. I'm not overweight. So when I would say this to people, people were like, oh, come on, Aline, seriously? Are you binging on like a lettuce? I don't think people could really understand what I was going through. So coming to the calls and being able to say those things like in a safe place was really good.
Beautiful. So if I understand correctly, you went from a state of really not being aware and having difficulty following other people's rules to being able to come up with your own rules and following them, sounds like between like 7 and 10 days in a row and then making a mistake. And it sounds like the mistakes are occurring when you get overwhelmed because you've got 3 little boys, you're taking a master's degree, you're running, you have a husband, and you're not someone who leads a boring life. You're working also, right? You have a full-time job?
Yeah, I have 2 part-time jobs.
Yeah, you're not someone that's sitting around and watching the grass grow and you're getting overwhelmed. But what's been a saving grace for you is that you've developed a kind of an observing ego. These are not automatic habits anymore. There's a space between stimulus and response, and most of the time you can make a better decision and sometimes you can't. Is that an accurate description of where you are right now?
Yes, very accurate, very accurate. Yeah. Yes, I'm very busy, but everything I do, I really love, like I love spending time with my family. I love my kids. I love my master. I love my job. It's not also like busy and miserable. It is being hard, but I choose to do all of this. And I feel very blessed, very privileged to be able to do the things that I'm doing, but I also recognize they're hard. So I also start feeling like I don't want to have the memories of, oh my gosh, when I was doing my master's, it was so hard. And I was also binging. When I look back, I want to have the memories like, it was hard and I did it. I don't want the binge to stain the memories that I have of time.
That's so important. I loved graduate school. Oh my God, it was one of my favorite times of life.
Oh, I'm loving it so much.
Learning something every day, starting to work with people. I had to commute 2 hours each way to do it. And I would say, well, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. This is what I live for. I love doing this.
My classes start at 5 a.m. and most of the people are in different time zones. I'm the only one like on the West Coast. So people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how you do this. And most of people in Europe, for them, it's like afternoon. And they're like, I can't believe how you do that. And I was like, I know it is hard, but it's so fun.
Most people don't recognize how much of our energy is damped down by overeating and drinking and not really taking care of yourself. When you learn how to really take care of yourself, it's like there's an extra few hours a day. People think that the disciplines we suggest and the methods that we use, they get annoyed that it take a little bit of work or a little bit of time. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take a little time, maybe a couple hours a week. But that time actually puts time back into your life. How long does it take to recover from a binge? And when you have the ability to eat according to your best knowledge of what you think belongs in your body to fuel your body, there's a sense of serenity and energy and confidence that you can go through the day and accomplish what you want to. And there's all this additional time. People ask me how I accomplish all these things, besides the fact that I don't have kids and I don't commute. I admit that's an advantage. But it's because I'm not binging. I've got all this time on my hands because I'm not binging. And I've got all this energy because I'm not binging. You got to do something, right? You got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
So it sounds like the community has been really helpful for you, the daily support calls, the groups, maybe the forum also. Are there other elements of the program that were helpful? What else really made a difference for you?
I like the one-on-one calls too. And being honest here, I could have taken more advantage of that. As a perfectionist, I was like, okay, I need to finish all the tasks before I reach out, or the tasks are not good enough, like I was being graded or something. So I didn't schedule as many as I wish I had done, but oh boy, the ones that got scheduled, the ones that I were able to talk to my coach was always so good. She was always like so on point. It was really, really good. And also like all the content too, like all the videos, I still listen to them, like I go back when I have a binge, I listen to the recovery again. I listen to them multiple times. Like when I feel like I'm a little off, sometimes I'm just at the gym and I just listen because I think it's very helpful. And I feel like it's not like I'm going to get it done and I will graduate. And definitely, I believe that the food obsession will at some point be dormant and I will not think about it. But I feel like it's an exercise. Listening, remind yourself the big why you're doing. Oh, the daily refutations are like incredible. So I think when you get to that point, even when you feel like completely recovered and everything, just having a reminder of those points is good to have.
Because it's a different way of life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a different way of life than we're encouraged to have in the quote unquote real world where people tacitly agree to slowly kill themselves with food whenever anything's rough. It helps to have a foot in the door, a little reminder now and then, dip your foot in the pool. Is there anything I could help you with?
As I said, I think my biggest struggle, this feeling of I know what to do. I know how to get it done. I know the feeling when things go well and when I'm not binging, I feel like so good. But for some reason, sometimes I still falling on some pig squeals. The help could be like this mindset of keep going. I'm a very resilient person, so that's something that the pig will have to deal with that because I don't give up easily. So I know I will keep going, but some days I just feel like discouraged maybe.
Eleni, everybody feels like that. Everybody goes through that. To be able to flex your binge-free now muscle when that happens. That's all you have to do. You just have to flex your binge-free now muscle, and your now muscle will get stronger and stronger, and it'll be progressively more binge-free. It'll go longer and longer between mistakes. But it is a muscle, and it does require constant work, and that muscle is strengthened by self-regulation, by breathing and nutrition and sleep and water and contact with good people in your life and taking breaks to get out of the rat race for a little while. And, you'll find the right balance with that over time. And if you resolve to learn everything you can from every mistake, just like you did, you said, look, I could sit here and cry about it and then I can go binge again, or I could kind of get back up and forgive myself and figure out what can I learn from this. And if you resolve to learn from every mistake, then it's kind of like playing archery. If you keep aiming at the target and keep getting up and making adjustments, you're going to get better. You have to. We're learning machines. That's what we do as human beings. We're learning machines. You'll get better and better. You can't help it.
I'm also like trying to create a habit of having like some kind of little pause before I eat, just kind of a reminder. If I get to the point where the false alarm might ring, at least I have like the little pause and nope, that's not the way to go. That is a habit that's been hard for me to implement, pause before eating. I usually do well like the first meal or two meals of the day, but later, as the day gets busy, I forget. I think that could be like also like a good strategy because I think my biggest problem when the false alarm goes on and I panic, I think, yeah, it's fire, even though I know it is not.
It's not natural to pause, but it's very good to pause. In nature, food was scarce while we evolved, and so we're programmed to grab every opportunity as quickly as we can, especially when there are a lot of calories in front of us for not much effort. It's instinctually counterintuitive to pause. And so it feels bad at first. So it requires a lot of effort. But when you see the results, that will reinforce the effort and you'll find it more and more natural to do it. If you're waiting until it feels good, you're never going to do it. It's not going to feel good at first.
Yeah. I already create like a rule that I will pause. I either take the deep breath or ask myself if I'm okay, because usually I will eat because I'm not feeling okay. If I ask myself if I'm okay, I know the answer will be no, but I still need to find something that will click and will stick. But I will keep trying to do the pause, especially the breathing. I think that would be important.
When you ask yourself if you're okay and the answer is no, what do?
I think I shouldn't eat.
To wait until you are okay and ask yourself, what do I need?
Yes, exactly. Because if I'm not okay, I'm probably eating because I want to run away from the feeling of not being okay. And actually, a few days ago, I had a little binge, but was interesting because like I ate and then I automatically, I'm like, why? I'm not hungry. I'm just tired right now. I was able to stop. I'm hoping that creating this habit, I will be able to stop even before having the first bite.
Oh, you will. And you can program in reminders to pause, a little knickknack or a statue or something, and put it on your table to remind you. And you can move that every couple of days, like a fresh reminder. You can send yourself emails, scheduled to arrive at certain times. You can put a note in the bathroom mirror. You could write it on the inside of your eyelids. Just kidding about the last one.
That would be good.
Please, everybody in the audience, don't do that. Also, coffee is hot and don't pour it on yourself and stuff like that. Is there anything else that you have a question about or you wanted to be sure that we shared or that I should have asked you?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think like mostly for me is that like I know what to do. It just at least feels to me that it's taking a little while to kind of get rid of the bad habits and create new positive ones. But I know I can do that. I will keep trying.
You are doing it. Like, objectively, I've seen you just about every week, sometimes a couple of times a week for 90 days. I see you as having made a lot of progress from where you started. And I remember in the beginning you said, well, is this even worth it? Maybe I should just quit, right?
Yeah.
A couple of times you told me that in the beginning. And now you have all these valuable tools and you're getting benefits from them. And you just have to resolve to get up and aim at the bullseye and learn as much as you can from every shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I want to say this too, because I feel like the results are also becoming like not just about eating, but I love the feeling that I'm becoming a better person because like that reminds me of so many other things, as I mentioned at the beginning, the self-care, the being honest to other people, like of course without being rude, but being honest and make sure that I take care of myself. I feel like this is going to set some good examples for my kids too. I'm okay. In my mind, it feels like it's a slow progress, but it is progress. I can see that too. I can see like when I began, the beginning, and how I feel like right now. It's very different. I can see progress for sure. But I think it's just like a lot of habits that I was doing before without even noticing. And I'm breaking them, and I'm happy to do that.
And these are patterns that have been reinforced for a lifetime, and the brain is reluctant to give up ways of acquiring calories because it thinks that's keeping you alive. And so it requires a sustained effort. I'm not a big fan of Freud, but he did say something interesting, which was that it requires constant repetition to force alien concepts on reluctant minds. Requires constant repetition to force alien concepts on reluctant minds. It takes a little bit of work for a while to change yourself, but it's entirely possible. And so many people do.
And I know I can do too.
Well, you already are.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Yes, that's a good reminder.
Eleni, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast of Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston. If you'd like to find out more about the products and services Dr. Glenn offers to help you dramatically reduce your cravings and stop overeating in 90 days or less, please visit defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. That's defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. Thanks.